We are Emilian Ene
and Silviana Carter,
the founders of Feel and Grow Rich project and the authors of the upcoming book called Feel and Grow Rich.
It is a great honor to introduce you to our special guest,
Tolly
Tolly Burkan.
Author and founder of the global Firewalking movement.
We have read your book, Dying to Live, and we was fascinated by it. I read your book even while I was walking down the street because I was very curious about what was coming next.
And I feel inspired to go on and not give up on my dreams.
Welcome, Tolly. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your background for our audience?
Well, the first thing I'd like to tell everybody is that my father's family is from the Carpathian Mountains, and so I'm half Romanian. And so I'm really thrilled that my book is in the Romanian language. And if you read Dying to Live, it's a fascinating story, but it was more fascinating to be living that. And when I look back over my life, today I'm almost 74, it's very clear to me that I've been used by God, by a higher power. And when I was young, I was so unhappy. I was so depressed. I attempted to kill myself and I actually succeeded. My heart stopped. They had to bring me back. And I was 4 months in the hospital. And then they thought they had helped me, but as soon as I got out of the hospital, I tried to kill myself again. And you're looking at somebody so happy today. I don't know anybody happier than I am. And to go from that depth of depression to where I am now, that's an amazing story. And if anybody knows people who are depressed, they should give them a copy of Dying to Live because it's a blueprint. It shows you how to change from someone who's depressed and suicidal to someone who's not only happy, but so happy that I teach people how to be happy. And a few things in my life really stand out. The fact that I succeeded in turning my life around, it inspired people when I told them, look, you're looking at someone who twice tried to kill himself. And so I needed to tell people, but there was no reason why people would come and listen to Tolly Burkan talk. And I kept saying, God, use me. God, please use me. And then all of a sudden, God says, teach the world how to firewalk. And now with the firewalking, everybody wanted to come to my classes and my lectures. And to teach someone how to firewalk, that only takes 5 minutes. But while the fire is burning, there's 2 hours of time. So what am I going to do with those 2 hours? And that was my spiritual mission, because there's no difference between emotional growth and spiritual growth. They're the same thing. And so I felt what I'm really doing is not teaching people to walk fire. I'm teaching people how to be more effective, how to be happier, how to be successful, because these are things that are practical. Walking on fire isn't practical, but the fire walk was the magnet that brought people to me. And believe me, while that fire is burning, people are listening to every word I have to say.
Yes, fascinated.
Amazing. What inspired?
What?
What?
That's my introduction.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, I don't know about in your country, but in the United States, the biggest problem is the opioid epidemic. People are addicted to painkillers. And what I have to tell people will get them off opioids. People are using opioids because they're not just in physical pain, but emotional pain. And I can tell people who are in emotional pain, I know what you're going through. I was there. And I also know how to turn your life around. Taking drugs is not going to help. It may give you some temporary relief from your pain, but what I'm offering people is an entirely new life, literally. I show people that, well, your readers, for an example, not your readers, but your viewers, they can all participate in this little experiment. Imagine you're holding a lemon in your hand. Just pretend, obviously there's no lemon, but when I go 1, 2, 3, I'm going to suck on my lemon and you suck on your lemon. And then we're going to talk about what happens. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Juicy lemon. Wow. Well, it's impossible to do that without having some kind of an experience in your mouth. And when there's no lemon, how do you explain that? You explain that because every cell in your body is connected to a nerve. And every nerve in your body is connected to your brain. And you can do things with your mind that affect the electrochemical balance in the brain. So you start thinking lemon and you have an experience in your mouth when there's no lemon there. And the reason is because the mind literally is connected to every cell in your body. And this is incredibly important because what I'm about to say is so simple. I'm going to say it twice. You create your own reality. You create your own reality. Whatever you believe about life, that becomes your experience of life. Whatever you believe about yourself, that's who you become. And so what are these beliefs? These beliefs are thoughts. And what makes us different than every other animal on the planet is we can be aware that we are aware. In other words, we can look at our thoughts. We can go inside of our own head and look at our thoughts. And if the thoughts that we are using are not serving us, then we have to change our thoughts. We have to change our thinking. And that's how I turned from somebody hell-bent on killing himself to somebody who's so happy. I don't know anybody else who's as happy as I am. How did I do that? I started by paying attention to my thoughts. Just like you're in a movie theater sitting in a seat, you can look at the screen, except you're looking at yourself. And an example is I was always afraid of heights. And I decided if I'm going to be a teacher, I can't be afraid of anything. And I didn't know how to cure myself. So I signed up for a skydiving class. So I would jump out of an airplane, and I knew I wouldn't jump out of that door if I was still afraid of heights. And as the plane is going up, I'm paying attention to the thoughts in my head. And they're saying things like, what if the parachute doesn't open? What if you don't jump out the door right? What if you don't land right? And I suddenly realized all of those sentences start with the same 2 words. What if? And I realized this is how I'm terrifying myself, by always saying, what if? And in the door of the airplane, I shouted out loud, shut up! And I jumped out the door. And if you're in the supermarket, you can't yell, shut up, that loud. But when you see a thought in your head that is not serving you, inside, shout, shut up. And that's how you create your reality, by taking control of the thoughts in your head and removing the thoughts that don't serve you and only put in thoughts that empower you. And so when I teach firewalking, I'm really teaching people how to use their minds more effectively. And I teach them about what if and the lemon. And when people leave, they may not have ever thought themselves to be spiritual. But when they walk on the fire with me, I open a door in their minds. And there's thousands of firewalking instructors today, but everybody basically does the same workshop that I did 50 years ago. And if people want to experience the firewalking seminar, my original firewalking seminar, it's on YouTube and it's free.
Excellent. Tolly, can you tell us about the book?
Well, the book is meant to take people through my life, to show people, here's who I was when I was a teenager. Here's how unhappy I was. And there's a very unusual episode in my life. When I was 19, I was a professional magician. I was a clown magician. I dressed up in a costume and I went to birthday parties and corporate events and Christmas parties. And everybody thought I was happy, but it was just a pretense. And I thought, why should I be so unhappy? I'm successful. I'm financially comfortable. I did well in school. And I realized I must be mentally ill. And I thought, maybe it's the circumstances of my life. So I thought if I could only start all over again with new circumstances, maybe my life would be different. But ironically, that year, my mother was a finalist in the Mrs. America pageant. And I was afraid if I just ran away, everybody would think somebody kidnapped her son because she was a celebrity now. So I faked my death. And I went to the beach with my fiance and I said, oh, I'll meet you at the edge of the water. And I had a forged identity because I was a magician. I knew how to do a lot of deception. And I had a bag packed and I jumped on a bus and I left. But that night, a body washed ashore right where I had last been seen. And everybody assumed that must be me, but they couldn't get the body because there was a storm and it pulled the body out to sea. And so there was a funeral and over 300 people came to my funeral. And I'm reading about this in the newspapers in California. I ran away from New Jersey. My mother was Mrs. New Jersey. But after a couple of months, I realized I'm just as miserable as I always was. It's not the circumstances of my life. The problem is me. And I thought I must be mentally ill. And I was mentally ill, obviously. And so I went back home. And so that I wouldn't embarrass my family, I said, I have amnesia. I don't know what happened. Well, that was on the front page of newspapers all over the world. How many people come back after their funeral? How many people, get to see their friends and their friends apologize? Oh, I'm sorry I wasn't at your funeral.
Wow.
So there's the beginning of a great book right there. And so that's why a lot of people pick the book up in the first place. But then I talk about my psychological process and I invite people to look at themselves as they're looking at my process. They get to see, is there anything similar in my own life? Are there thoughts that I can change also? And so the story is basically the first 37 years of my life. And I've since then lived another 37 years. And what I didn't get to put in the book was my experience of being a parent, because that's the most profound thing that ever happened to me. And the thing that changed me the most was becoming a parent. And so I talk about my experience of being a parent a little bit in this book, a little bit in that book, but I never really picked up the story from when I was 37 years old and then went forward. And some of the most dramatic things happened in the second 37 years. I was a pedestrian and I was hit by a car and my neck was crushed. And my neck had to be rebuilt. I had to go through 3 12-hour surgeries using cadaver bones and parts of my hip. And to this day, I've never fully really recovered from that. But learning how to live with such a huge challenge, that's inspirational for other people too, because everybody has some kind of challenge. There's no free lunch.
Yes.
Yes.
True.
Amazing.
This is true.
What are your top 3 priorities in life?
I'm not sure I had a good connection there. Say that again.
What are your top 3 priorities in life?
Well, the first one is to be a good parent. I can't emphasize that too much. Someone once said to me, wow, that's some legacy you have, being the founder of a global firewalking movement. I said, that's not my legacy. My legacy is that I have been a fantastic father. And I took being a parent so seriously. I read books, I took workshops. I really focused on that as a spiritual discipline. And then not only have I been a fantastic father, I've been a good son. And so number one, my best priority, of course, is to be a good father, because my kids are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, but I'm still a good father. And I owed it to my parents to be a good son after putting them through the hell that I did, trying to kill myself twice, being in the hospital, my heart stopping, faking my death. I mean, that's the most shameful thing I could possibly have ever done to my parents. And so when they got old and they were feeble, I took care of my parents financially, physically. I bought them a house close so I could just drive over there in 5 minutes and be there for them. They both wanted to die in their own homes, and I had a hospital bed brought in. I took such good care of my parents. I was such a good son. But I owed them that, because the first part of my life, I was a horrible son. I put them through hell. And then the third priority in my life is to be a spiritual teacher. And that's what my books are doing. That's what we're doing right now. Somebody might have started watching and they had no idea. Maybe they thought, oh, this will be exciting, firewalking. But what I'm telling you is that shouldn't be what gets you excited. What should get you excited is the fact that now you know how to create the life you want. You can watch your thoughts just like you're sitting in a movie theater and you're on a screen. You can pay attention in a new way. And just through that process, transform your entire life. So those are my 3 priorities: to be a good parent, to be a good son, and to be effective as a spiritual teacher.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Tolly, what are the habits that lead to your success?
Well, there's a saying, I think it's in the Christian Bible, that says, ask and you will receive. And I kept asking God, I was a pest. God, use me, use me. And all of a sudden, I'm on the cover of the Wall Street Journal. I'm on Mythbusters. I'm on all the networks. I'm on television all over the world. So I didn't do that. I just said, God, use me. I never had a manager. I never had an agent. I never had a publicist. I never had somebody to promote me. But with the internet, I was easy to find. And I never called any of those television shows. They all called me. And so I can't tell you what habits led to my success, because I just surrendered to God. And I said, God, use me. And I'm just amazed when I look back and I see, oh my God, I've been on hundreds of television shows. I've been written about in over 100 books. I don't even know some of the languages that people cite me. I'm considered an authority in so many areas, and I don't even have a college degree. And yet I'm invited to lecture at universities. I don't call them, they call me. So how can I tell you what habits I've developed to lead to my success? Because I simply surrendered and asked God to use me, and the rest was just automatic. And the truth is, because my neck was crushed and had to be rebuilt, I became very limited in how I could travel. I couldn't fly anymore. And it just became a burden for me to continue teaching. And so I did one particular seminar where I showed people, your thoughts are electrochemical. You are electrochemical. So we're going to go to a casino in Las Vegas, and all you need to do is keep focusing on love, opening your heart, forgiving people, letting go of anger. And as you do this, it will change the electricity in your body. And you know this is true. If you go to the supermarket and somebody had an argument with their husband or their wife, and they don't have to say anything. You can feel they're upset. And it's possible to see what thoughts are causing you to feel negative and substitute new thoughts. And if you do this in front of a slot machine, every time money comes out of the slot machine, quickly pay attention here and notice, what were you thinking? And so this was the most powerful of all my seminars, way more powerful than Firewalking. And I was in Las Vegas. People were winning thousands and thousands of dollars. And then they go home, and one man went back. He went to us. He was from, I think, Australia. He won $500,000 in slot machines. But I couldn't keep traveling because my neck was so bad. I couldn't even sit in the car 9 hours to get from my house to Las Vegas. I said, God, if you want me to do this work, you're going to have to build a casino in my backyard. And 2.5 years later, there's a casino a half mile from my house, a $1 billion casino. It looks just like Las Vegas. Huge hotel, restaurants, giant parking garage, and it's on an Indian reservation. So there's not that many casinos because they have to be on Indian reservations or in Nevada or in New Jersey. And so now I could do the seminar right in my own house. And people flew here from Asia and Europe and South America, and I didn't even have to leave my house. People would get in their cars, and in 5 minutes they'd be in the casino. And the last time I did the casino seminar, everyone who came left with more money than they came with.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Wow.
And I have a book called Extreme Spirituality. And there's an entire chapter, in fact, it's the longest chapter in the book, on how to use slot machines as biofeedback devices. And I get emails from people who have never been to my class, and they've won thousands of dollars just from reading the book.
Wow. Awesome.
But not everybody lives close to a casino.
Yeah.